She changed. She changed 15 policies. In fact, I'm going to send her a MAGA cap.
She stole your idea about no tax for tips.
I came up with this idea that honestly nobody ever heard of. And now it took her 2 months, but you know what? All of a sudden,
it caught fire,
and she just put it into a little speech.
Yeah,
well,
it became popular.
I think we still have that issue. I think that issue is a good one for us.
It finally happened. Donald Trump went on the Joe Rogan Experience, and of course, it has melted the internet, right? Millions upon millions of views across several different platforms have ensured that Donald Trump's message is getting out to a wide audience with no filter whatsoever. Now, Kamala Harris was also given the opportunity to appear on the Joe Rogan podcast, but she turned it down because of scheduling conflicts. I'm sure she has another town hall lined up somewhere where she, of course, is going to crash and burn spectacularly, all right? Now, this conversation that Joe Rogan and Donald Trump had was, of course, lengthy. 3 hours long, which is pretty standard for Joe Rogan's podcast, okay? But Donald Trump stuck with it the entire length of time and was able to, of course, entertain and inform Joe Rogan on several topics. Now, of course, since the interview was so long, I'm just going to bring you a few of the best clips. Before we get to those, please like and comment so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
I always got more publicity than other people, and it wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild shit.
Maybe. Maybe
he said a lot of wild shit, and then CNN, in all their brilliance, by highlighting your wild shit, made you much more popular.
Yeah.
And they boosted you in the polls because people were tired of someone talking in this bullshit, pre-prepared politician lingo. And even if they didn't agree with you, they at least knew whoever that guy is, that's him. That's really him. Yeah. When you see certain people talk, certain people in the public eye, you don't know who they are. You have no idea who they are. It's very difficult to know. You see them in conversations. They have these pre-planned answers. They say everything. It's very rehearsed. You never get to the meat of it. One of the beautiful things about you is that you freeball. Like, you get out and you do these huge events, and you're just talking, and you're making. We've highlighted you on the show many times when you did this Biden impression where he's walking around, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's funny. It's stand up. It's funny stuff. But it's like. And you were making fun of Elon one time. You were doing an Elon impression. It's great. You have like comedic instincts. Like when you said to Hillary, you'd be in jail. Like that's great timing.
Yeah.
But it's like that kind of stuff was unheard of as a politician. Like no one had done that. And I think
it's funny. You need at least the attitude of a comedian when you're doing this business. This is a very dangerous business. First of all, it's a very tough business.
It's the most dangerous business.
It's the most, for a job?
Yes. I mean, other than going to war and being a firefighter or being a cop, it's the most dangerous business.
It's the most dangerous. For being president is the most dangerous.
Especially you. I mean, you haven't even got to the election. There's been 2 assassination attempts. And they've brushed those out of the news like it was nothing.
Yeah, they'd rather not talk about them.
Imagine if there was assassination attempts on Biden, how hard people would be attacking the right, how they would be trying to get guns taken away from people. They would try to ramp up gun laws. They would try to figure out some way to blame you. If there was attacks if Biden got shot in the ear, we would have never heard the end of it.
So I personally don't think Donald Trump got most of his attention from the media because he was saying crazy stuff. I think he was saying things that people wanted to say, but no one was willing to say. And here you had Donald Trump, right? A lifelong Democrat, essentially, a very famous and popular person saying, hey, guess what? All these huge caravans full of people south of the border coming up, invading our country, that's got to stop, right? It's not good for our economy. It's not good for our safety, right? We have to go ahead and shut it down. And that's what he ran on. And up to that point, it had really only been right-wing politicians and pundits who were saying, hey, this is a dangerous situation. But here you have Donald Trump basing his entire presidency, his entire entrance into the political forum on this issue, right? On immigration, on shutting down the borders and building a wall. We all know how that turned out. But Joe Rogan did, of course, point out something very true. CNN and other left-wing organizations highlighted every single word Donald Trump said, thinking they were actually hurting him, when in fact it was just rallying the American people around him because they all agree with the policies that he was talking about, with what he wanted to enact.
I never thought of that, by the way, when I did it. You don't tend to think.
Did you just assume because people loved you on The Apprentice, they were going to love you as a president?
I figured it would be so easy. It's well, very
it probably
interesting.
would have been if the media didn't attack you the way they did. If they didn't conflate you with Hitler. I mean, even today, like Kamala was talking about you and Hitler. They're going to take what you said about Robert E. Lee. Oh, Donald Trump wishes the South won.
That's right. He loves Robert E. Lee.
They love to take things out of context and distort things.
Well, they don't even have to take them out. They make them up entirely. Okay,
They do
make
that
'em.
too.
But it's interesting when you mentioned the I was very popular, and all those people loved me. I mean, some of these women, they're so stupid, and Joy, she would every time she'd see me, I'd be in the theater or something, and she'd, you have to be on the show again. Come on, let's go.
She loved you.
To love me.
That episode where
By the way, Whoopi,
people should watch that episode just to see what we're talking about. Like I said, we don't want to get a copyright strike, so we're not going to put it up. But
okay.
if you watch the episode, it's bananas. It's like an alternative universe, and it's only
but Whoopi
9 years ago.
Whoopi loved me.
you, gives you a hug and a kiss.
And how about that other one, the new one on there, the one from my administration? She writes me a letter. You're the greatest president. She leaves. She worked as an assistant press secretary. I hardly knew her. But she leaves and she writes me this gorgeous letter. What's her name? She was, I don't even know. Anyway, she was in the administration. She's on now currently. Sits on the far right-hand side, whatever the hell her name is. And she writes a letter, the most beautiful letter. She's quoted in the paper. He was the greatest president, blah, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden she goes to the View. She started hitting the hell out of me. Because they won't hire her unless. I've had many people go on CNN and they called and said, I don't know what to do. They want to pay me a lot, but I have to be negative on you. I said, be negative. That's okay.
It's a creepy, corrupt business, and the media, to a large extent, acts as a propaganda arm for the Democratic Party.
It's not even believable.
Yeah, it's bizarre to watch, and most young people, I think, are aware of it. I think most boomers still, unfortunately, read the newspapers and believe in CNN.
But it's getting younger. Let me
Yes.
tell you, it's getting for us, for a conservative.
Yes.
And I consider myself a person.
It's the internet. It's because the internet's giving people information that they're not getting from anywhere else. And they like the Very Fine People hoax, the Russiagate hoax, all these different things that they've done. They tried to pin on you. That's like it's a clear distortion of what you actually said.
The bloodbath hoax.
Yes.
I was talking about the auto industry.
Yes.
It's a bloodbath because Japan and China are taking our auto. And I said, it's a bloodbath. They said, he used the word bloodbath.
He said, if you
think
don't
of
win,
somebody,
it's going to be a bloodbath
that's
because they're going to take over.
Right.
That's exactly what you
said. It's
said.
a terrible thing they do.
But that's the problem with propagandists because they take things out of context. And ultimately what they do is they diminish their own credibility because people don't want to listen to them anymore because they see that they've done that and they recognize what's going on and they feel insulted.
Just a great reminder that, yes, for years, Donald Trump was beloved by the media, beloved by rappers, beloved by many people in all types of different diverse communities. But now, as soon as he comes out as a Republican candidate for president, holy crap, the switches were turned, the gears started moving, and the media machine came down on him hard, trying to crush his soul and spirit. But also, of course, the levers of justice being investigated over and over and over again, and initially being found innocent of everything they were bringing against him. So, of course, they had to go specifically to New York City, to a place that Joe Biden won by over 80%, and for some reason have all the lawsuits right there. So yeah, no such thing as lawfare against Donald Trump. But seeing this machine turn on a dime the minute Donald Trump went against the leftist narrative was impressive to watch. And that's something that many people in the younger generations have actually seen. And because they're so internet savvy, if that's a word I want to use for them, I suppose, they're exposed to many different types of information, many different types of media. They're not just, as Joe Rogan says, the boomers stuck watching NBC or CBS, etc., who only have one information source and therefore only getting one side of the story, which they've been spinning and spinning for years. So I love how they actually addressed and called out the blatant hypocrisy, the blatant one-sidedness of the modern mainstream media.
A voter ID?
Voter ID is the most bizarre argument that I've never seen anybody articulate in a way that's convincing.
Because
why
they
you
want to
don't
cheat.
need voter. Well, it doesn't make sense any other way. I've tried to straw man it, or I tried to steel man it rather. I've tried to look at it from a position like, why would you not want people to have ID? And a lot of the ideas are just ridiculous. You need an ID to get a driver's license.
Okay, but here's now the next step. Gavin Newsom, one of the worst governors in the world, and I used to get along, but I don't get along with him now because he's just too, it's just a whole con job. But Gavin Newsom, the other day, signed a bill that you are not allowed to ask a person, even ask them whether or not they have voter ID.
Now, what could be a charitable reason why anybody
because they
would
want
want
to cheat?
that? But that would be the only thing that makes sense.
But that's taking it to the next level.
Right.
Now, you have ID. The Democrat National Convention, when they had it the last time, I saw They had a sign, like a billboard, on the name of the person, where they live, how they live, who the hell their boyfriends are. Every single, it was, and a big picture. That's for they have an ID, a big ID. It was hanging like you were a prisoner. They had these massive cards, everything. And yet when it comes to the vote, in theory, the most important thing we do, okay, when you go to a grocery store, you give ID. But for a vote, it's supposed to be a sacred thing, and it should be a sacred thing. No voter ID, because they want to cheat.
Well, it doesn't make sense in any other way. I've tried to look at
There's no other way.
There's no argument that anybody's presented that makes any sense why.
You know the funny thing, Joe? The Democrats, the people, they all think you should have it. In other words, you should have voting. If you go to the people, Mrs. Schwartz, Mrs. Smith, Mr. and Mrs. Jones.
Sure.
They say, of course, yeah. Democrats, they say yes. It's the politicians that don't want it, like Schumer and these guys. They don't want it because they want to be able to cheat. Because you know what? If they didn't have it, okay, who is going to vote for somebody that wants open borders? Who's going to vote for somebody that wants to have men playing in women's sports? You know, I have never had one person come up to me and say, President, you got to do something to allow men to play in women's sports.
It really does seem like only one side is concerned about voter integrity anymore, despite the fact that 70 to 80% of all Americans actually want voter ID, actually want secure and safe elections. But for some reason, the Democrat leadership, they sure don't, right? And as Joe Rogan and Donald Trump point out, yeah, it's because they want to cheat. That's the only explanation that makes any sense. And of course, there's also a reason why our borders are completely wide open and they are busing and shipping people to all different types of states across the country. And actually some interesting data just came out. Over here you can see that, yes, by destination, Joe Biden has been flying in illegals from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, etc. Okay, and you can see that from January of 2021 to December of 2022, they have flown 750,000 people to red states, illegal immigrants to red states, and 272,000 to blue states. And then from January 23 to June of 24, over 1 million to red states and 223,000 to blue states. And you're trying to tell me that this whole concerted effort to allow anyone into the country to get rid of voter ID, and Joe Biden's Department of Justice is now suing states to force them to allow people with no verification of American citizenship to vote in the upcoming election. Yeah, there's only one reason they don't want voter ID, and we all know what that is. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.